Here we are iterating over a couple objects that have a field called type, right? And depending on that type, we would like to be able to define or draw or render a particular type of component, of Angular component. Here we have two components, and the components are a true-false question and a multiple choice question. So depending on the object that we're iterating over, we'd like to use the type to decide to only render maybe the multiple choice, but not the true-false. Or if it's true-false, render the true-false, but not the multiple choice. So let's see how we do that in Angular. So in Angular, what we can do, right, is that we can wrap the content that we want to decide to logically render one or the other, right, and wrap it and put it inside of a what is called like a switch case, right? In in Java and in JavaScript, we have the switch case construct, right, that allows us to either execute one or another case based on the value of a variable. So same thing is the idea is that from this div, I can use an ngSwitch. There it is. And then the ngSwitch takes as argument the variable that we want to use as our logical operator, right? So in this case, we want to take the question, and we're going to take the type of the question, right? And we know that the type of the question, right, is either going to be true, false, or multiple choice. So once we have this variable, set up in our ngSwitch, we can then compare the value of the ngSwitch with several cases, right? And so to do that, what we're going to do here is that we're going to add an ngSwitch case. There it is, switch case. And the ngSwitch case takes as argument a variable, right? And the value of that variable will be compared against the value of this variable. If they're equal, then it will render that component. If they're not equal, it will not render it. Okay, so what we're going to compare the type, we're going to compare against a variable. Now that variable is going to be a constant actually, right? We want to compare against the constant true, false, right? So for instance, that's why I'm putting it in quotes here, because this is expecting a variable or an expression, and that expression has to evaluate to a string so that it can be compared against the type. So here I'm going to put true underscore false, right? And if that's the case, right? If this type is equal to true false, then it will render this component. Otherwise, right? We're going to compare now against the other choice of the ngSwitch case, right? We're going to put this in a new line, and we're going to compare. The other choice is multiple underscore choice. Okay. Now, if we head over to the browser, we'll notice that now the multiple choice type value chooses to render only the multiple choice component, and the true false only chooses to render the true false, and that's true for any of the quizzes. So quiz 2, I think, has 3 questions, true false, 2 true false, and 1 multiple choice, right, and so on and so forth.